everyone. So I have Tanya from Hidden Valley Farms, is that right?
Yep.
Here today, and she is going to work the bees, and I asked her if I could video the process of her just kind of opening up the hives and taking a look and maybe adding some supers, right?
Yep.
And we're going to take you along with us and show you what she does. I'm just a videographer, but I figured this was something that would interest you guys, so I decided to grab the camera and let you come along with us. She's got a truckload of supers here, and she won't know if they need to be added or not until she actually opens up the hive. But you've got your smoker ready, and guess what? I'm wearing a bee suit as well as Tanya. Yeah, gotta get good smoke.
Yeah. That's the hardest part.
And after I talked about me getting stung so many times, there were people saying that I needed a smoker.
Yeah.
But I don't need a smoker to feed bees, do I?
No, you only use the smoke when you work the bees, and it mainly just helps hide their pheromone that they put out.
Okay.
And it calms them a little.
Gotcha. But feeding them is normally of no risk, except that day I just didn't hold my mouth right or something.
Well, I think also you told me you've been feeding in the afternoons.
Yes.
They're more active in the afternoons.
Yes, that was my fault.
So I try to feed first thing in the morning while it's still cool.
Uh-huh.
And they're not nearly as active.
And I did that yesterday,
Yeah.
and I saw some activity, but of course they weren't focused on me.
Yeah. All right, so you always get your smoker going first. So I put a little newspaper in the bottom, and then I'm just using your hay that you have cut everywhere because it's nice and dry. And you don't want to stuff it in too much. You want it kind of loose.
Now, will you have to refill while you're working the bees?
Yep.
Okay. So you just always make sure you got plenty.
Yep. And then, you have it everywhere.
So it's not a big deal.
Yeah, just take a step. And then you'll need a hive tool.
Okay.
There's several kinds.
And that just opens the boxes, right?
Open the boxes.
Okay.
And then while we're in there, the other thing I'm going to check for is hive beetles. And so I try to use non-chemical means to control pests. And so I have found these Swiffer dry sweeping cloths will trap the beetles, and you want the unscented kind, and we'll just put them in the top of the box, and the bees will rough them up trying to take them out, and the bees don't get stuck on them, but the hive beetles do.
Awesome. I have never heard of such.
Yeah. So I use that, and then I also carry me a marker.
Okay.
And on top of the hive, I write the date I inspected and what I saw.
I saw that on some of the tops, and
yeah.
I wondered what that meant.
Yeah. And that's because I run 3 to 4 apiaries of bees, and so
it's easy to forget.
It's easy to forget, so that way I can just quickly look on the top and say, okay, well, what did I see last time I was in here?
So you're gonna only put the Swiffer things in if you see hive beetles,
or if they need to be replaced.
Okay. Yeah. So you've already got some in there.
I've already got some in there.
Okay. Wish me luck.
You'll be fine.
Oh goodness.
So they're all very active today, so that's good.
And you inspect from the back, right?
Yes. So you don't ever want to stand in the front door.
Okay.
So you can stand on the left or the right.
And
just whichever way you prefer to work them. Everybody's a little different.
You have bees that some are more prone to wanting to defend their hive than others?
Yes.
Okay.
So you get different strains of bees. So there's Italian bees, Caucasian bees, and Russian bees. And based on what kind they are, they show more aggression than others.
Gotcha.
But I tell them aggression's not always bad, because usually the more aggressive the bees are, usually the more honey they make, is what I have found.
Okay.
But we don't, we don't have any killer bees or anything like that.
Thank God.
Yeah. So.
And I see that even though I filled this up yesterday, it's already empty.
Yeah. So right now, we've had so much rain that every time it rains, it washes all the nectar from the plants away.
Okay.
So then the bees have to wait till something blooms again before they can go get anything.
That one's full.
Yeah. So the bees, if they find something better out there, they won't eat the sugar water.
Okay.
So
they'd rather have plants.
Correct.
But supplemental sugar water.
Correct.
I gotcha.
Yeah. Okay. So we're just going to take the last time I inspected these was on February 25th. This hive, I said the queen was laying very good, but they didn't have much honey.
Okay.
So, and I had wrote myself a note that they needed a box.
Okay.
So usually when you pop open, you'll see bees come up to the top of this inner cover.
Oh, and I see them.
Yeah. And so we're just going to put a little smoke.
Gotcha.
Kind of just tell them, kind of like a little, hello, we're fixing to open the door type thing. And then we're just going to pop the inner cover off.
Now, is this where you'll see mites,
Yes.
if there are any?
Well, the mites are on the bees themselves.
Oh,
So these are my Swiffer sheets I was telling you about.
I gotcha.
And so these little black things are the hive beetles that we're trying to capture.
So the hive beetles are what you can visibly see?
Correct.
Okay, that's what I was calling
And
mites.
so the bees basically rough this up. As you can see, this bee is not stuck to it. So she can walk on it fine, but the hive beetles basically get trapped on it.
That is a incredible
Yeah.
way
And so
to...
if you ever do see some dead bees on here,
Uh-huh.
it's usually the bees themselves trying to drag the dead across it.
Okay.
So you might see a few. We'll just take the hive inner cover and prop it up.
Okay.
And then, so usually you can start by looking down in it, and wherever you see the most bees is where you do not want to start,
Okay.
because that potentially could be your queen. So over here there's like no bees. So I would start by popping one of these frames out.
Now, will you pop every frame out?
This time of year I would.
And what are you looking for?
So this time of year what I'm looking for is the queen, to see how she's laying.
Okay.
I don't care if I necessarily see the queen, I just want to see evidence of her.
Okay.
And evidence would be an egg. And she also should have some capped brood.
Okay.
I'm also looking to see how much honey they have.
Okay.
Because she can produce future bees, but if they run out of food to feed them, then they'll starve.
Okay.
So this frame, and I'll let you feel it, is completely empty. See how light it is? So
what does that mean?
This is the one I just added a box to.
Okay.
So they haven't had a chance yet to start working on it.
Okay. So you won't add a box to that one?
Correct.
Because you already
They've
did.
got plenty of room.
Okay.
I can look down and see real quickly that every frame looks just like that one.
Okay.
And
so there's no need to open all of those?
Yeah. So if you scan, you won't see anything from the top other than a few bees.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Because it's just been added.
It's just been added.
Okay. So you'll go down to the second one.
Correct. So we'll just pop open this one.
You know the queen's not up there, right?
Correct. Now, I don't run queen excluders, so my queen can go anywhere in this box she wants to. So based on what I just told you before, we would not want to start from this white frame over to here because there's a lot of bees. So we'd want to start either over here or over here where there's not as many.
Now, a lot of bees, does that mean the queen may be right there?
Potentially.
Okay.
So we're
because they're protecting her, and that's their whole...
Yeah, that's
their whole life.
Yeah, so I'm going to give them a little smoke, and that's going to drive them down. Just a little bit. So now if you look at this frame, if you come over here with your camera, you can look right here and you can already see there's some stuff in this particular frame.
Yes, I see it.
So that's capped brood.
And that's a good sign,
that's
right?
a good sign. So I'm just going to pop open the frame behind it. And sometimes they stick them together. I'm just going to try to...
Here we see it on the back. It's all hanging off.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oop. So we dropped a few, but that's okay. Here, shake some of them off. So the glistening stuff is nectar that they're bringing in.
Oh, I see it. It looks like gold.
That eventually...
I don't know if it's showing up on camera or not, but I caught a glimpse of it and it caught my eye.
Yeah, it shimmers. And then over here, these little that look kind of flat and matte.
Right.
Those are future baby bees.
Cool. And that right there as well, right there?
Yep.
That's future babies. But it not being a lot of bees, is that, I mean, a lot of future babies, is that okay?
Well, that's what we're going to start looking for.
Because if it's not a lot of babies being made, then there may be a problem?
Correct.
Okay.
So this was kind of jumbled up, for lack of a better word, so I'm going to take this out.
Okay. Because it'll break off if you try to put it back in there
and
anyway.
I think that's what was keeping us from taking the frame out
Yeah, I think
easy.
you're right. Oh wow, look down in there. I mean, there's bees everywhere. And I see some capped cells on this next one.
Correct.
So that's a better sign. That's why all those bees are there, I guess.
Yeah, so if you were to, which I know the camera's not going to probably capture it good, but if you were to look down in there, you would start seeing some eggs and some larvae and some royal jelly that the bees are feeding the future babies.
Now, what is that white looking stuff over there? It looks like wax.
Well, it looks like wax, but that's actually like a larva that's in it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So this one she's just started laying on.
Uh-huh.
So let me see if I can find a better one.
And there's only going to be one queen per hive, right?
Correct. Now there are tales of there being 2 queens in a hive at one time.
Whoa, look at all those bees.
So now if you were to, I'm just going to blow on them to move them.
And that just makes them move out of the way.
So do you see all the white in that one?
I do.
That's larva. So that they start out laying an egg, and then the egg turns into a larva. And then when it gets to a certain age, the bees will cap it, which is this flat, matte looking color. And then it'll take so many more days, and then the bee will eventually chew through that.
What is this little fella or girl doing?
She's cleaning it out.
She's cleaning it out.
Yeah,
okay, so is that probably a already hatched cell?
Well, the very first job of when they're born is to turn around and clean out their own cell.
So that way they'll have the ability to lay another.
The queen can reuse it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
well, that's good that they do that and you don't have to.
Yeah.
You'd be in for a long day if you had to clean each one of those
So she's
out.
laying good. She's just gotten started. So we're just going to quickly go through.
How often do you inspect?
Well, this time of year, I'm trying to stay ahead of them to keep them from swarming. So I try to do no sooner than 2 weeks.
Okay. And what is your indication that they may swarm?
That's what I'm looking for now. I'm looking to see if they've started any queen cells.
So if they've started a queen cell, then you know that swarming may be near.
Correct. So in order for them to swarm, they first have to have drones present.
Okay.
Because a drone is a boy bee, and its only purpose is to go out and mate with future queens. So they don't want to lose their original queen and not have the capability to replace her with a new queen. So they want to wait until all the conditions are right. And so they want to make sure they have plenty of nectar coming in. And
now, what if you see a queen cell?
Well, you have a couple of choices. You can either choose to leave it in there and let nature take its course. Or some people take those out and make what are called splits, make future hives.
And what do you do?
I usually make splits.
Okay. Because there's never enough bees in the world.
Well, because you always lose some.
Yeah.
This right here is an example of a queen cell. It looks like a peanut.
Wow. You know what it looks like to me?
What?
A dirt dauber nest.
A dirt dauber nest. Now you can look in it, and I can look in it and see that it's empty. So it's not got anything in it. So you can actually just, pull it off.
Because you don't want them to try to use that for any reason.
Correct.
Oh my gracious, I have never seen such.
So sometimes they'll just make what I call pretend ones. Just to kind of say, I wonder if I can make one if I needed to, So.
Wow, they're smart critters to be so small. I think more so than we give them credit for.
And this yellow that you see in this one is pollen.
Okay, I see it.
Yep. So they need a little bit of, I haven't seen any capped honey yet.
Well, what is that white right there?
That's one of the Swiffer sheets.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So this one still does not have any capped honey that I've seen. So
And that's not what you want to see.
Correct. So we're going to go down one more box and see if maybe that's where their honey is.
But once they start getting their feed from plants versus depending on us to feed them, it'll be inevitable that there will be honey, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And there'll come a point where I'll tell you don't feed them anymore because you don't want your honey tainted with sugar water.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so let me give me some more.
Okay. And it may be that the reason that this sugar water was emptied so fast is because there is no honey, right?
Correct. So
and honey is what they use to keep themselves alive.
And the babies.
And the babies.
Yeah. So sometimes your queen, too, if she senses they don't have enough food, she'll quit laying.
Oh, and you don't want that.
And you don't want that.
Because how's the hive going to grow without babies?
Correct. And it takes a baby just 21 days to be born, and then takes it another, I'd say, a week to 2 weeks before it's out foraging.
Wow. So the first one, there's no honey on it, right?
Mm-mm.
No honey on that one either.
Mm-mm. That's why I was trying to find you some to show you.
A lot of cat brood though, isn't it?
Yeah, it's still not a good pattern. You would expect it to be solid.
Okay.
And that's why I tell people too, it's good to have more than one hive,
Uh-huh.
because you have something to compare it to.
Wow, that's a lot of bees on that one.
Yeah. And I think I may have shown you last time, but do you know the difference between a boy bee and a girl bee?
I used to.
That's the boy bee.
The boy bee.
See how much fatter he is?
Okay. So the boys, all they're doing is just...
Their job is only to mate with a future queen. Not inside this hive, but out in the wild.
Okay. Well, why is he in here?
Well, they bred them. They created them and are raising them. And then he'll go out on mating flights.
I see a lot of pollen on the wings of these bees.
Yes, which is good. So they need pollen in order to feed the babies, and they need sugar water or nectar.
Okay. So during the winter months here in Alabama, we don't have any way for them to really get the feed that they need, right?
Well, there's stuff that blooms in the winter. So we have camellias that bloom,
Mm-hmm.
Lenten roses bloom. We have winter honeysuckle.
Mm-hmm.
So there are things that bloom. It's just they're not in abundance.
Gotcha.
You can also hear they're getting a little agitated with
Yes.
me. So they're kind of like, all right, you need to get out. So I'm gonna go ahead and close this one back up.
Okay.
Tell a difference, like when you just heft them. If they're very light, that'll tell you.
Because honey's heavy.
Yeah, this box full of honey will weigh between 50 and 70 pounds.
Wow. I guess you just learn to work without having your fingertips, because I'm thinking if I were to need to get one of those Swiffer things right now, I couldn't grab it for you.
Well, I mean, they don't stick real bad.
So no need to add anything to that one because you just did.
Yeah.
Now, so say I come over here and this jar's empty,
Yeah.
but the other ones are full.
Yeah.
Should I fill the one up that is empty?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I have just been waiting until they were all empty.
Yeah, and it really does. I mean, you do what you can do. I know
Okay.
you got other things to do
Well,
besides this. So.
It's just as easy for me to, and I can make it and save it until they all need filling.
And I usually mix up a 5-gallon bucket full, and then just kind of carry it in my truck with me, which that's what you saw when you got in the truck with me.
Okay.
So this one, I said, the queen was not laying good. She's got a minus, and their honey was a minus.
Oh.
So this should be a very weak hive. It should even be weaker than this one.
So you won't take every frame out like you did the last one, right? Or will you?
Just to kind of spot check. Sometimes you can just look down at the top of them and tell what's in there.
If you're experienced
If
enough.
you're experienced enough. You can also tell by the amount of bees. Like when I open this one up, it's not nearly as populated. As the last.
How long have you been keeping bees?
Let's see, I think I got started in 2013, but my granddaddy kept them when I was little.
So you've been around them.
I've been
for
around them.
most of your life.
So,
Yeah, that's pretty naked, isn't
yeah.
it?
So that's not a good sign.
Does that mean that this is a weak hive?
It means it's a weak hive. So
Okay.
I could choose to requeen it. So some people raise queens, and they would, you know, they would find the original queen, take her out and kill her, and then put in a new one.
Because she's obviously not doing
Correct.
a wonderful job.
Yeah, so just from me looking through these initial, none of these have anything in them. No nectar, no eggs, no nothing.
Now, is that what you call splitting a hive when you do that?
What's that?
When you add another queen?
No, that would be called requeening a hive.
Okay.
If I was to make a split, you could either take the original queen and half the bees over to a
New
another
box?
hive, and then leave a queen cell in here for
Okay.
them to make a queen.
Okay.
That would be considered a split.
Gotcha.
And I was telling you that one of the things, I do things by what things are blooming,
Uh-huh.
because, you know, like Easter comes at a different time every year.
Uh-huh.
So the way I learned to beekeep is to pay attention to the plants around you and what they're doing, and then they'll usually tell you what the bees are doing.
Oh.
So I was telling you, when my blackberries start blooming, that's usually when my hives want to swarm. So,
And Jason showed in his last video, we went over and we looked at the swarm trap, and there was no activity near the swarm trap, which means that they have not more so decided to do that.
correct.
It's probably a little bit too early
Correct.
here.
But that's why I asked them what I did, is I said, what does your blackberries look like?
Oh, I see honey. Is that honey?
Well, it's nectar.
Okay.
So you see the shimmer,
Uh-huh.
and so nectar comes in very liquidy, very much like this sugar water.
Uh-huh.
And the bees have to dry it out, remove the moisture. So they will not cap it until the moisture is down to less than 17%. So they'll sit there and fan it. So they'll do like this and kind of dry it out. And then once it gets the right consistency, then they'll cap it.
I'm here to tell you, bees are amazing.
But if you were to look into this one, you can see a whole bunch of white.
Uh-huh. I don't know if it will show up or not.
Yeah.
And what does that indicate?
That's all the babies.
all the babies. Okay.
Yeah, so she's laying good, because all this is white from here. And it's easier to see it when you got the sun kind of shining in on it.
Does that make you feel a little better about the hive?
Well, yeah, because I was telling, you know, I told you I keep bees for another man.
Uh-huh.
And he had one hive that the queen was just a late starter. I mean, his other hives were busting at the seams, and he wanted me to requeen that hive.
Uh-huh.
And I said, well, she's laying, let's just give her a chance. And she ended up producing better than his other hives.
Wow. Just by hanging in there.
Just by hanging in there. She was just like, I don't want to get started good. So this is a pattern that's really good. So I'm going to blow the bees off. See how this is more solid? So that's what you want, as a good laying queen that lays basically in every cell from left to right, top to bottom.
Yeah, I see.
And you notice that first one we looked at, it was very spotty.
Yeah.
So I actually think this is probably a better laying queen than that one.
And I see some pollen on the wings of some of those.
Like that one right there.
It's really light colored, but it's pollen.
Yep, yellow.
It just depends on the plant that it was extracted from, right?
And there is a chart that you can find on the internet that will tell you what the different colors mean, what flower they're getting it
Well,
from.
I can remember at the old farm when we had those mean bees, that a lot of times during this time of the year, we would see red on their legs.
Yep.
And that was the dead nettle, wasn't it?
Yeah, or henbit. Some people also call it henbit. But they're in the same family. They're like in a mint family.
And it doesn't seem that these bees have that, so it just may be that there's not as much of that around.
Yeah, correct. And you've got a lot of yellow flowers blooming right here beside us. And
yeah, Marycarl told me I can't cut the grass.
well, my husband laughs at me because I'm like, my weeds feed my bees. So
Yeah, she tells me, she said, Mom, you can cut over by the house, but don't cut anywhere else.
So
I've been a good girl.
yeah,
I
try not to cut grass till mid-May. But my husband always beats me to it. He said it starts looking bad.
Well, it does, but I don't want to hinder their... So this could, in turn, end up being a very strong hive, even though it's not.
Right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll let her continue to do her thing. And
So I'm gonna try to find my marker. And
well, you do better than Jason if you kept up with it.
well, I have enough pockets. So I'm gonna move the queen up from a negative to probably a positive, because I thought she was doing a little better this time. But the honey's still way off.
Okay.
And she's still got tons of room. This top box was empty, so I'm gonna write top box empty.
And you'll find bees that you keep that are not too far from here that may have a completely different outcome.
Yeah, by the time we get down to that one you call the main hive, you'll probably see totally different.
Wow.
Which we can, you want to just move down there?
If it doesn't mess you up.
It doesn't. So this is the one you said was your attacker.
Yeah, if you guys listened to Jason's last video and our live, you know that my next to the last feeding, I was attacked by a few of Tanya's sweet bees. But Marycarl was with me, and she said that they were coming mostly from this little crack on the back of the hive.
Yeah.
And I always approach them from the back, but that day they sent something that they didn't like, and they sent their pheromones out to the other members of the hive and told them to get me, and they did just that. But you want to open this one up and see how mean they are?
What that tells me is I probably need to replace this box because it's starting to rot.
Okay.
Yeah, so when I write my notes for this one, we'll try to add that.
And you'll know to bring another box next time.
Another box next time.
And it's stuck on the top too, isn't it?
Yeah. So see how many more bees are at the top of this one? Then those last two. See how they're just pouring out.
Does that tell you right there you're going to add something on here?
Probably. It tells me it's a much stronger hive.
Oh, they're strong, all right.
You got all this wonderful bee smoke right here on your phone.
And I'll leave it right here for you. I remember at the old farm when we would smoke bees, we would go to the woods and get pine straw, and it was always either too wet or that was aggravating.
Pine straw is good, but you've got a lot of pine trees right here by the bees.
I can only imagine what it's going to look like when you take this off. Now, what is he doing? He's taking a dead bee away, isn't he? Okay.
So honeybees are very hygienic. They don't want anything diseased or dead or anything in their hive. So they usually try to carry it out.
Now that would be a male, wouldn't it? Taking him away?
No, that's a girl.
Oh, it's a girl. Okay.
Yeah, the girls are your workers.
Ah.
And again, the only job a boy has is to mate with a future queen.
And so you're not going to have that many males in here, right?
Usually you don't.
Okay.
And that in winter, like come October, I know you called me because we had a lot of dead bees out here. And that's because they actually take the boys and they kick them out.
Okay. No room for those men.
Well, there's no use for them. So they can create more boy bees in the spring. So they just, kick them out of the hive. And that's why I know you asked me, should I worry about having all these dead bees in the front? And that's
why the boys were being kicked out.
Yep.
A lot of bees even on the top.
Yep. So this hive is much stronger than those last ones we looked at.
Even though they have access to the same amount of...
Correct. But that's why, again, I tell people if you're going to keep bees, keep more than one, just so you have something to compare to.
Now, is there any reason those are plastic on the end?
They're just frames that I had.
Okay. So no reason. It's just...
So you can actually have a that's a fully plastic frame. You can have a frame that is wooden on the outside, and on the inside, you can see right here, that's plastic that the bees build comb on. And then you can have natural foundation. So they've got a little peanut, or as you called it, a...
Oh, where is it? Oh, I see it. I see it. It's like a dirt dauber nest.
Or a dirt dauber nest. I
so that they're gonna try to make another queen?
Well, that's why so it's empty.
It's empty, okay.
So I can just go ahead and kind of close it down.
That lady was trying to show her dominance, wasn't she?
So I'm just gonna set that one down.
wow.
Now, another thing I wanted to show you the difference in, these that look like little bullets, those are boy bees. So boy bees are bigger, so they need a cell that's a little bit bigger.
Now, why haven't we seen boy bees in the other ones?
Well, because maybe they wasn't ready to swarm because they wasn't as...
Oh, is that the queen?
Let's see.
Up there on the top?
No, that's a boy bee. This one?
Bee. Okay, yeah. But the queen is much bigger, isn't she?
Yes, and she usually has either a solid red or a solid black butt or abdomen. So.
Wow, he's so much bigger.
Yeah, he is much bigger.
Good gracious. So will they kill off these males?
In the winter they will.
In the winter,
yeah.
Okay. But they need them right now.
Yeah, right now they're their potential future father. So if this hive was to swarm and make, you know, another queen, that queen would go out and mate with as many as 10 to 20 different drones.
Wow. They got quite a few eggs in the center.
Okay. And so once the boys mate, they die, of course. I think you already knew that. But... Still don't see any capped honey to show you.
Do you think this is the most active hive?
No, I think this one is probably at the end.
At the end? Okay.
Or at least it was the biggest of the ones last time I inspected.
And you were saying that your neighbor had a fruit orchard, and his fruit was not nearly as productive as to when he added bees.
Yeah, I actually had bees less than 2 miles from him. And once he found out, he said, "Oh, now I know why my production's up." Well, then he wanted some bees, so he got some bees, but he was not a beekeeper. He was just owned some bees. And so a lot of them died out on him or swarmed away. And so he and I became friends, and he asked me would I start keeping his bees for him. And so I keep his bees at the end of the road.
And his fruit orchard is much more productive since he's added the bees.
Correct.
And you're taking care of them.
Yes. So we work in harmony. He feeds them like you're doing.
Well, we're so thankful to have you.
And he lets me, you know, kind of keeps his eye on them just like you do for me. Lets me know if anything happens.
Well, you wouldn't in turn want as many hives as you take care of in one place, would you?
Correct. So bees can fly up to 2 to 3 miles in any direction. But there's really not enough forage for just millions of hives in the same place.
So if you want to be a beekeeper, you may have to keep them in more than one place if you got a bunch of hives.
Correct. So my rule is to try to not put more than 10 to 12 at any one location.
Okay. Hey, do you prefer to use the frames with just the wires on them or the plastic foundation?
So this one is all natural. So you can see it has the wires like you were just talking about. All the wires do is provide stability. So,
and they made all of that comb.
Correct.
And then the ones that have the plastic foundation, the fake comb is there. All they do is just go from there.
And build it out. Yeah. And so you need something to provide structure for when you extract it. Because when you extract this, you'll actually centrifuge spin it. And the spinning of it, the weight of the honey can break the comb. If you don't have something like these wires or plastic or something to strengthen it. So, but this hive has a lot of natural foundation.
And was it that way when you brought it here?
Just, again, I acquire a lot of different stuff over the years. And so if I have a lot of natural foundation, I might use it, or I might use the plastic. It just really depends on what I have. The main thing I try to do is I try to start the bees with drawn comb if I have it. And what that means is, so it'll have something for them to already start and feel. Because for every pound of this beeswax, it takes 8 pounds of sugar water or nectar to build it.
Wow.
So it's very labor intensive. So if you can start the bees out with drawn comb, it just makes them go that much faster.
And gives them a head start.
And gives them a head start. And I tell everybody, it's kind of like you moving into a house with being fully furnished versus you starting out with nothing.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. So it just, helps you out. It's not that it's required either way. And these frames are bigger, so these are what are called deep frames. These are usually what most people reserve for their brood, for the babies.
I see a lot of those males
Yep.
in the center there.
But since I don't run queen excluders, my bees can use these frames for honey or for babies. It doesn't matter.
Now, when you extract your honey, do you do it manually or do you have a electric machine that does the spinning?
I do have an electric machine, but I started out with one that was manual.
And you use a knife to cut the outer?
I don't. I just use a simple kitchen fork.
Okay.
And all you have to do is barely scrape it and get the wax to break, and then you can extract the honey.
Well, that'll be an interesting process. Maybe you could let me help you out when it comes to that time.
Sure. And if anybody wants to know, Zoe from Chestnut Hills, she brought her son.
Chance.
Yeah. Chance helped me extract.
Did he?
Yeah. And so they have a video of it.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So check out Chestnut Hills Farmstead. She's got a video of extracting honey from last season.
Yep. She's got a lot of videos actually, because I taught her pretty much the same way I'm teaching you, other than I actually made her do stuff.
Well, I really don't have the room in my brain to learn what it takes to take care of bees. So,
but she wants to
do it herself.
Correct. Yeah.
But as long as you are willing to keep bees here and you maintain them, then that's best for us.
Yeah. So
it's just kind of a personal preference,
correct.
I guess.
And Mr. Gamble has no desire to keep bees. He enjoys seeing them.
Yeah, it's not that I don't love them and respect them. It's just that.
Okay, so I'm just taking one frame just to make sure she's laying in all the boxes. But we still have not seen any capped honey.
Oh, goodness. So they get a negative on that.
Yep. And so I'm going to go ahead and scrape some of this beeswax off. And I'm going to use it to fill in that gap.
Oh, okay. So plug that hole.
Yep. So that hopefully they won't get you next time.
They're not going to get me. I'm going to wear a veil from now on. Yeah, if I'd had a veil on that day, it would have been no worries. Because don't they most likely go after your head?
Well, I think for girls, at least, I don't really think they go for one part of the body or the other. It's just most of us girls have thick hair. And once they get in, they can't get out.
Yes.
And then it freaks us out because you're hearing them hum right there by your head.
Well, I've been stung multiple times over my life, and I've never been stung in the head before.
Yeah.
But then Jason told me when I went inside, he said, that's because bees go for your head. And I had never heard that before, but Jason's not always right.
Well, I mean, I just think that they go, they just, like Zoe, she got stung right here in the forehead when she helped me. And she wasn't doing anything other than the bee was just coming and going. And she just happened to be in the way that it was coming and going. So, I mean, she hadn't aggravated it in any way. So.
Just something that happens.
Yep.
If you're going to work bees, you're going to get stung eventually.
Eventually.
No matter what you're doing.
And the most important thing is just to get the stinger out. And not to grab the witch tweezers.
Yes. I had a lot of people tell me I did a no-no.
Yeah, because that pushes the venom in. But it's hard to do in your head.
I was going to say, with it being in my head, I couldn't really scrape it off with a card or anything.
Correct. Yeah.
And I couldn't do it anyway.
Yeah, because you couldn't even see it.
No, I couldn't see it.
So, yeah, you just have to do what you have to do,
And where does this one go?
Well, so, when I start my bees out, these are 10 frame equipment, which means they have 10 of these frames on it. And then once they've been there a year and they draw the frames out, I like to move them to 9 frames.
Okay, so they have room to expand.
Well, and 2, they'll draw out the comb thicker.
Okay, that
And,
makes sense.
So I noticed this one didn't have much in it.
Uh-huh.
And so I was just going to take it and add it to another hive eventually.
Okay. Now, Marycarl asked me the other day, do bees ever get mixed up and go in the wrong hive?
I'm sure it happens. You know, they're supposed to have a pheromone that will tell them, you know, not to do that.
Uh-huh.
I'm sure it happens. And they say they can see colors, so I try to have my hives be different colors,
Uh-huh.
hoping that maybe will guide them. So far we haven't added any boxes to yours.
Not good, Cog Hill bees.
It's not bad. It just means they're, you know. So this is the one I thought was your best hive. So
Okay.
last time I gave it a positive on queen, but still a negative on honey.
And they have only drank about half of their sugar water in 24 hours.
Yeah.
Well, a little more than 24 hours.
Now this is the one we actually extracted and sold honey off of last year.
And this is the only one?
This is the only one. So
How much honey did you get off of this one hive? Do you remember?
50 pounds.
50 pounds out of one box.
Yeah. So,
And it looks like that may be the same if these girls don't get busy.
Yeah. But now these are deeps.
Uh-huh.
So a deep will hold 100 pounds of honey,
Okay.
potentially. And the mediums, which are smaller boxes, will be between 50 to 70 pounds.
So you didn't have this on last year, right?
I think I had these swapped.
Okay.
Because my rule of harvesting honey is I try not to harvest until they get past 2 boxes.
Gotcha.
Because that way it gives them room to lay and food for them.
Mm-hmm. Which without food there would be no bees, so they have to be left with some honey.
And I tell everybody their honey is more nutritious for them than this sugar water.
And I had some people reach out to me when we first started showing little clips of us feeding the bees, saying that they were told to not feed the bees. And I said, I think it depends on where you live more so than, or your beekeeper.
Well, it does. I mean, again, the only reason why I'm feeding these is because I have seen they have no honey.
Uh-huh.
So I'm just trying to get them through till the main nectar starts producing.
But if you were in a region where the temperature stayed frozen most of the winter, you wouldn't feed them either, would you?
Well, okay, so bees will not move if it's not like above 50 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're in a really cold environment, instead of putting liquid sugar water on the front, you would do like a dry, they call it fondant, kind of like making cakes. They have fondant coverings, and it's just a thick sugar patty, and you would put that on top of the hive.
Because they're not going to go out and forage because it's too cold.
Yeah, they would just come up underneath that and then go right back down.
I gotcha, okay.
So you might still feed the bees, you would just feed them in a different way.
I understand. Lots of bees.
And she's laying good. I see lots of white. And again, a lot of people, they're like, well, show me the queen, show me the queen. I don't care if I ever see her. As long as I see that there's eggs in here.
And you know she's there.
I know she's been there at least 3 days ago.
And you really don't want to disturb her, so to speak, do you?
Well, that, and to me, I find, which we heard that hive down there, they get irritated at you the longer you're in their hive. So I really try to just do what I need to do.
Minimal, and minimal is better.
Correct. So you'll see that I do a lot of inspections where I just look down and look at the tops of the frames. And once you become an established beekeeper, you can know kind of what's going on just from that.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And you can tell too by the heft, you know, the weight of, like you saw, I just picked up this whole hive. I should not be able to do that.
Okay.
So that's how come that's why I've been telling you to feed, because they're just so light.
How do bees in the wild survive without supplemental feeding?
Sometimes they do and sometimes they don't.
And that's why our population has decreased greatly?
correct that, and then, you know, pest and disease, pesticides, diseases.
Well, Jason just ordered some fruit tree spray to spray his blooms on his fruit trees, but he made sure that it was organic and safe for bees.
Yeah, and I think they've got a new brand. I don't know what he bought, but my neighbor bought some that was actually called Be Safe.
What he bought was something Tracy from Just Dig It Farms recommended.
Well, she has honeybees. So.
She does. And Tracy says you're one of the best beekeepers that she's ever known.
Yeah, she and I met because I was keeping bees for a mutual friend of ours. That's how we met. His name was Bob.
There's a lot of bees on
See how
one.
she's dancing right there?
Uh-huh.
So she's just told them, I found something. See how she's moving?
Mm-hmm.
That's the waggle dance I was telling you about earlier. And she's trying to go, come here, follow me. Well, she's laying good, but I still don't see any honey. So it looks like everybody's getting a minus on honey today.
That one stuck. Could that mean honey?
No, it just means they put the two levels together, basically.
Glued them together.
Yeah. So I think we still got another good 2 weeks before they're going to start.
On the swarm trap, did you put any kind of bait or lure?
Yeah, so I put, the way I do is I put some drawn comb in there, some old comb, and you can use lemongrass oil, or they make a swarm lure called Swarm Commander that you can spray in it that attracts them.
And at our old farm, which I've mentioned several times, when we kept bees, we had a lemon tree that was within 20 feet probably of where the hives were.
Yeah, so tell Jason we need another one.
We need another lemon tree. Every time our bees swarmed, which was multiple times, they went to the lemon tree.
Yeah.
And it was just amazing.
And they made it easy for you to get them.
They did, because that lemon tree was in low to the ground. And all right, so this is all I'm going to show today on the video. Next time I hope we will have some honey that's capped to show you. And if you guys enjoy seeing Tanya take care of the bees and she doesn't mind, we'll be back for more.
You got it.
I really enjoy learning about it. Of course, learn something new every time. But I feel like my knowledge is just minimal, and having her come and show me how she takes care of them is just a delight, because I know that's something that I won't be able to personally do, and really don't have interest in caring for them myself. But until then, I'll continue to feed. I see this one's already empty. That one's empty. And we will keep you up to date as to how our honey production here at Cog Hill Farm is going. Thank you so much, Tanya.
See y'all later.